I want to give a shout out to Betty and Dan Russ from Madisonville, Kentucky, who encouraged me recently by suggesting their friends on Facebook to listen to this podcast. My commitment is to continue this message each week as long as at least one person listens. This is a way you can help keep it alive. Invite others to listen to each episode you find interesting. Here's the recent post from Betty Rust on Facebook. Just wanted to share, a friend of Dan Rust and me, Jerrie Barber, has a weekly podcast called Gleaning Mustard Seeds. Jerry shares his thoughts on several situations that are often encountered in churches and in today's society. Today's podcast, number 86, is titled Dealing with Difficult People. As I listened, I wondered if we're being Christ-like. Do we often hurt others with our words, actions, and sometimes lack of words and actions? Maybe instead of criticizing, show appreciation and encouragement. In podcast number 80, Jerry offers some thoughts about suicide. This is a topic I heard about when I was growing up. I heard a few family members often threaten to use a gun, phone cords, or a knife. It's hard. It's emotional. It's a very dark place to be, and in my opinion, people don't seek help before it's too late. If you're interested in listening to Jerry Barber's podcast, you can type in Gleaning Mustard Seeds in the search bar, and you'll see a place to view all of them. Thank you, Betty and Dan. You encourage me by telling me what I'm doing is helpful and told your friends how they might benefit by listening also.
Welcome to Gleaning Mustard Seeds with Jerrie Barber. Mr. Barber is a preacher, a ventriloquist, a barefoot runner, and writes 2 blogs. When Jerrie communicates, he encourages people, try not to learn very much. Find a mustard seed. In the next few minutes, try not to learn very much. Look for something you can do to move a mountain, remove a stumbling block, or provide a stepping stone for yourself or someone else. And now, here's Jerrie with this week's mustard seed.
In this episode, I tell the story of a moment that stayed with me for more than 45 years. A simple comment from a friend that exposed a blind spot I didn't know I had. I thought I understood humility. I preached about it, quoted it, admired it, but one honest sentence from a friend made me see myself more clearly than any compliment I ever had. If you've ever needed a gentle correction or have been grateful for a friend brave enough to give one, this episode is for you. Jesus begins the Sermon on the Mount by encouraging humility. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This quality is taught many other times in the Bible. James 4:10, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. 1 Peter 5:5 and 6, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, for God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. Philippians 2:3. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Proverbs 11:2. Pride leads to disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Luke 14:11. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Micah 6:8. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Here's some humorous descriptions of humility. Humility is the ability to downplay achievements you secretly wish someone would film a documentary about. Humility. When you accept you're not the center of the universe, but still hope the universe notices that. Humility is agreeing you might be wrong, fully aware that you've researched this more than the person correcting you. As a young preacher, I knew when I preached a good sermon, adequate preparation, good timing to meet the needs of the congregation, a well-presented message, nods of heads, focused attention, and specific comments from several who found the lesson helpful. On other occasions, I knew the sermon wasn't excellent. Not as much preparation, exhausted when I delivered it, confusion at some point, and lack of attention from those listening. I didn't feel good about the whole process. And yet, often, an individual come to me after the sermon, which I thought was a disaster, telling me how helpful some point was. It gave a perspective she had never thought of before. I helped a person find hope in something that was bothering him. This happened several times. A group was discussing this one night after services in Madisonville, Kentucky. I shared my observations. I know when I preached a good sermon. I know some sermons are not as good. I'm disappointed in myself and the way the sermon turned out. Yet, after about every one of those I thought was bad, one or two people would tell me how helpful it was. After considering my comments, I realized how I came across. I'm a good preacher, and I know when I preach a good sermon. There are times when I think I preached a bad sermon. Most of the time, when I think I preached a bad sermon, someone tells me it was helpful to them. Therefore, I guess I'm a good preacher all the time. Other preachers told me they've had similar experiences. On the night when this group was talking, a friend, Jane Washington, said, "Jerry, did it ever occur to you that sometimes you're so bad we think if we didn't encourage you, you might just quit?" My reply, "No, I've never thought about it that way, but I promise you I'll think about it many times in the future." I've kept my promise to Jane. I needed the dose of humility. This exchange expresses the thought of Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. I'm thankful for friends who help me knock off the rough edges and become sharper. A dose of reality and a different perspective is a good treatment for arrogance. Thank you, Jane Washington. I still remember and appreciate the sharpening after more than 45 years.
Thank you for listening to Gleaning Mustard Seeds with Jerrie Barber. If you found a mustard seed, send a text or email with the link to a friend. This podcast was brought to you by Gail Barber's book, Fleecy Clouds. One woman's story of surviving and thriving after childhood abuse, by Gail Champion Barber and Alice Sullivan. Gail writes in the introduction to her book, "I hope you find a blessing in this book that will add to your life and you can share with others. A difficult beginning didn't ruin the remainder of my life, and it doesn't need to ruin yours either." You can order your book from Amazon. There is a link in the show notes. Thank you for listening. Jerry looks forward to next week as we continue to collect and plant mustard seeds.